Good afternoon, tubers. Madam Roy back once again. Back to you on a Sunday evening. I should say afternoon. Hope everybody is doing really well this Sunday. This is a live stream slash video. In this case, I'm doing it as a live stream that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Hold on. Whoop. Phone went off. I always forget to take the batteries out of it. Let me do that now. There we go. Okay, so this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while. Ever since I started with our lifestyle change, I've had a lot of you asking me about things to avoid. And this is a really, really interesting topic because I've done a lot of research when it pertains to pre-made food or box food that you can get in the store. Things like these Hostess Suzy Q's that my mom is totally addicted to. I've been trying to get her away from these, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Same thing with these. These are some Chocor milk chocolate flavored hot chocolate mix. And when you see that flavor mix, you can already tell there are going to be some pretty bad ingredients in there. Things that you want to avoid if you're trying to eat healthy. Believe it or not, a lot of things like this, prepackaged foods, have something called natural flavors. And you think, wow, Matt, natural flavors, I mean, that's great. I mean, it's all natural. It comes from nature. No, 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 no. It's where they try to trick you. Believe it or not, natural flavors is just another word for chemicals that they put into the food. And believe it or not, there's really nothing natural about them. The fact that they call them natural flavors really should be outlawed because they're anything but natural. And actually, if you see it says natural and artificial flavors, sometimes the artificial flavors can actually be more natural than the natural flavors. I remember an instance where I purchased some strawberry Kellogg's, what was that? It was the Kellogg Special K strawberries. And believe it or not, they had to put artificial flavors because they were actually using beet extract to get the strawberry flavor. And they do that in a lot of ingredients and a lot of cereals that have the fake strawberry taste. They'll actually get that strawberry taste from beets, and they might add like a little bit more sugar to it. But in that instance, they have to call that an artificial flavor, even though it's not. So these companies are really trying to trick you when it comes to putting the ingredients in their ingredients lists. Now, I'm going to read a couple of more off of here that are really questionable. The one right off the bat that I see, it's about the fifth ingredient, is high fructose corn syrup. And you guys that have watched my channel for any length of time know what I think about high fructose corn syrup. Just to give you a quick background, high fructose corn syrup was a sweetener developed in the late 70s, put into general use in the 80s. It's derived from corn. And the reason that they use it is it's a lot cheaper. It's very simple. It's a lot cheaper than regular sugar. But the problem is the body doesn't treat it like regular sugar. It's not something that our bodies were designed to process. Again, it's a chemical. So believe it or not, ever since the introduction of high fructose corn syrup into the mainstream products, things like sodas, treats like this, Hostess, cupcakes, Twinkies, even cereals. Since that happened in the early to mid 80s, there has been a rise of about 25 to 35%, depending on who you believe, the research, in diabetes. And they are now finding the correlation between that and high fructose corn syrup. So, I don't want to draw any conclusions because the jury is still out on exactly how dangerous high fructose corn syrup really is to your body. But I don't know about you. I don't like those odds. I mean, it's too much of a coincidence that the instances of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, all of these negative consequences came about around the same time that they started switching to that high fructose corn syrup. So Me personally, I try to avoid it as much as possible. And believe it or not, you can find high fructose corn syrup in a lot of places you wouldn't expect it to. For instance, ketchup. Heinz ketchup, believe it or not, uses high fructose corn syrup. Barbecue sauce. I went into Dollar Tree the other day and I was going to get some barbecue sauce because I had bought some country pork ribs and I wanted to get some barbecue sauce, cook them. And do you know that out of the three types of barbecue sauces there, not one of them didn't have high fructose corn syrup? So I passed. I'm actually going to do something else for that. So those are two ingredients you really need to stay away from. Natural flavors and high fructose corn syrup are two of the worst ones that I can think of off the top of my head. King of the Deals, thank you, by the way, for the $1 super chat. I do appreciate that. It says, enjoy your content. High fructose corn syrup and soft drinks also keep you extremely thirsty. It's all calculated. I'm not surprised. I did not know that. Perfectly honest, I did not know that it actually made you more thirsty. I know that even when I was a kid, and yes, when I was a kid, they still used real sugar in some of these soft drinks. I remember that that sodas always made me thirsty, but I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't, because they are. You got to remember, they're in the business to make money. These companies maximize their profit at the expense of the consumer. I don't care how much they try to get these PR people to say, "Oh no, that's not true." It is true. They are going to maximize their profits no matter what. Let me go under here. There were a few other ingredients. It wasn't in this. Believe it or not, it was actually in this Chakor hot chocolate K-Cups that I actually got from Aldi. Now, this was before I started really looking at labels. Corn syrup solids. I mean, there's another one. It's just another version of corn syrup. Now, not as bad as high fructose corn syrup. This is when they're talking about corn syrup, they're talking about the kind of corn syrup that you bake with. Coconut oil is fine. Non-fat dry milk is okay. Maltodextrin, it's a little flavoring. That's questionable. Some people have issues with that. Chocolate liqueur. That's another one. Now, chocolate liqueur is not necessarily bad for you, but certain people that have stomach issues, that can aggravate them. I know that if I drink or ingest some type of food or drink that has too much chocolate liqueur in it, I get very gassy. So that's something you have to watch out for. Sodium caseinate. I can't even pronounce this one. Dipotassium phosphate. Just different forms of sodium. Again, if you are have high blood pressure, you want to watch out for those, because it's just another form of salt. And then there's that natural and artificial flavor. Again, you really got to be careful. And they're really trying to fake us out with that one, because natural flavors, once again, are anything but natural. And it really gets me that the FDA allows them to put that there. King of the Deal says, our mom makes homemade sloppy joe sauce to avoid as much of the syrup as possible. Yeah, absolutely. When we used to eat sloppy joes, at least in our area, we used to buy the Hunt sloppy joe sauce. They were the ones that actually invented it. And yeah, I mean, at least nowadays, that's full of high fructose corn syrup. But originally, we're talking about when they were made, I think back in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, up until the early 80s, they used real sugar. See, that's the thing. And this is what really aggravates me. These companies, in an effort to save maybe 2 to 3 cents on each unit they sell, move to the high fructose corn syrup over the sugar. Now, in their defense, back when they were moving over to high fructose corn syrup, they really didn't know the adverse side effects of it. It just been developed. So they were thinking, well, it's cheaper. It makes it taste the same. Let's go ahead and do it because we're going to make more profit. But now, and I have to give a few companies kudos for this, because now that the evidence is starting to come back that high fructose corn syrup isn't the greatest sweetener that it was made out to be, a few of these companies are trying, two being Coke and Pepsi. Probably Pepsi, I think, was first. If you ever go into the store, you'll see next to your regular Pepsi bottles, you'll see Pepsi Throwback as an option. And the Pepsi Throwback is made with real sugar over the high fructose corn syrup. And I was very happy to see that. And in most cases, not every store, but in most cases, it's the same price as the high fructose corn syrup counterpart. So I guess they're at least trying, but a lot of these companies need to try harder. In my opinion, I think they need to go ahead and pull the old drinks off and just stick with the Pepsi Throwback, the Coke. I'm not sure what they call the Coke version, but Coke also has one that uses real sugar and not high fructose corn syrup. So let's see. We got 7 watchers and 4 likes. While I'm waiting, you guys are welcome to put a message down. Let me know what you guys think. If you can think of any ingredients that you try to avoid. One ingredient that I try to avoid as much as possible also is MSG, or monosodium glutamate. Now, monosodium glutamate is actually a chemical, and it basically gives food flavor. It's salt. It's a chemical version of salt. In most people, believe it or not, I think the article that I read, I think it's about 60 to 70% of people out there are perfectly fine with MSG. It doesn't bother them. But the other 30% of the population, it can give them migraine headaches. It can give them very, very bad indigestion. Luckily for me, it really doesn't bother my stomach that much, but that can change. The more you ingest of it, the greater the risk that you'll develop a allergy to it. So I just try to avoid that as much as possible too. Okay. Somebody sent me an email. Chet Boulay. Hey, Chet. He goes, I avoid aspartame. Yeah, aspartame is one of those artificial sweeteners similar to Splenda. Well, so you got the 3 main ones. You got aspartame, Splenda, which is the name brand of sucralose. So you got aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin. Saccharin being the oldest, aspartame being the second oldest, and then of course sucralose being pretty much the newest of the artificial sweeteners. They all have their problems. Now, aspartame goes by the name NutraSweet or Equal. It's all aspartame. And the big problem with aspartame is they have found that in certain people, it can cause strokes. Not everybody. Again, what I'm saying here is just a small portion of the population. But again, I don't like those risks. If at all possible, I'm going to avoid eating or drinking something that could possibly cause a stroke. So, Chet, that's a really good, it's a really good observation. I'm glad you try to avoid that as much as possible. If I do have something that has artificial sweetener, I will probably try to stick with Splenda because, and that being sucralose. Sucralose doesn't really have any adverse side effects that I am aware of. Now, years down the road, they might find that it causes heart failure or something. Who knows? But right now, the research says that that's fine. But I generally stay away from all of the artificial sweeteners unless I absolutely have to. I use what I actually use in my coffee, and if I need to sweeten something up, I use pure cane sugar. And you can get it. It's called Sugar in the Raw. Kroger has their own brand of it. It comes in like little packets. I can get 100 of them for like $3. And it really looks weird when you first use it or use it for the first time because it's not processed. So it's actually brownish in color. What you're actually seeing is pretty much what they take out of the sugar cane. And the fact that it's not processed, it's not bleached, means it's much better for your body in the long run. Okay, 7 watchers, 5 likes. All right, come on. Let me know what you guys. Let me know if you guys have anything else that you try to avoid. It can be a specific food. It can be an ingredient in a food. While I'm waiting, there is one other one other item that I refuse to eat anymore, and I actually didn't know that it had this in it If you guys are into eating a lot of pasta or Italian food, you've probably seen the grated Parmesan cheese, the really fine stuff that comes in those plastic bottles. Well, I avoid those because if you read closely on there, it actually says that it has cellulose fiber in it. And for those of you who don't know what cellulose fiber is, it's basically wood pulp. Yeah, that's right. You are actually ingesting a form of wood pulp when you eat that grated Parmesan cheese. I don't want to gross anybody out, and if you've eaten it in the past, just be aware that that is what you're putting in your body. Chipotle. Also, never salt my food or use any table salt at restaurants. That's good. That's good. Me personally, I try to avoid adding extra salt to something unless I'm at a restaurant. Usually, it's like an Italian restaurant, other than Olive Garden, because they usually put enough in for me. And I order something like fettuccine Alfredo or stuffed shells with an Alfredo sauce. That's about the only time I ever add extra salt because generally they don't put enough in there for my taste. And I do have to be careful because even though I am physically healthy now, I still do have slight high blood pressure. So I do have to watch my sodium intake. Hey, Matt, George here on my wife's phone. I'm in Baltimore, Sarah Stewart. Okay, okay. Well, if you guys are coming here late, we're talking about things in food to avoid eating, if at all possible. And there are really so many of them out there. I can't touch on every single one in this live stream, but I want to touch on as many as I possibly can. So let's see. We've talked about high fructose corn syrup. We've talked about the artificial sweeteners, natural and artificial flavors. Um, the other ones that don't really concern me as much are the food dyes. Like you'll see, especially in things like hot dogs and stuff like that, you'll see red dye number 5, yellow dye number 7. And a lot of people in the health and fitness industry have really raised a big stink about these food dyes. But honestly, there's really nothing really bad about those. Yes, they are artificial, but they don't really act on your body. All it is food coloring. It's just changing the color of the food. Now, yes, granted, most of the time the food that has this dye in it is not really great for you to begin with. And I think that's a lot of where these health and fitness experts are coming from. But the food dye itself really isn't all that bad. Again, it's really mostly colored water, and they really haven't found any ill effects on your body. Now, one thing I will tell you, if you are using food coloring or food dye, please, please, please get it from a reputable food chain. Don't go to your local dollar store and buy food coloring because chances are it was made in China and could contain lead. So if you are going to use food coloring, just be really cognizant of the fact that you want to get a good brand of it. Chipotle, another great advice tip I got one time was don't drink your calories. I like that. I really like that. What he means by that is stay away from the sugary drinks, sodas, sports drinks. Another real bad one are the energy drinks. You get enough calories in your food. You're better off going with good old H2O. And you can get this in many forms. Heck, if you don't like drinking regular water, you could drink carbonated water, i.e. seltzer. You have flavored waters now. Again, you got to be careful with those because most flavored waters use an artificial sweetener, sucralose, aspartame. But in my opinion, it's still better than drinking 5 or 6 sodas a day because that is just a recipe for getting diabetes and obesity in the future. I mean, I am a great example of that. You guys, for the most part, probably remember when I was every bit of 350, almost 400 pounds. And a lot of that was because I was not only making unhealthy food choices, I was also making unhealthy drink choices. And I was drinking 3, 4 sodas a day. I wasn't ridiculous when it came to the soda, but I did realize that it was putting the weight on. So really good idea to try to stick with drinking water. And I love it. I drink at least a gallon of water a day. And I recommend that you do the same, especially if you're out exercising a lot in this heat. Though I will tell you that today was our first fall-like day. I know a lot of you guys like to hear a quick weather forecast. Well, to give you an idea, yesterday we had a heat index of about 110. Today we are in the 70s, and I'll pull up the exact temperature here in just a minute. 77 as the high, and for the foreseeable future, we're not going to get past 86. So I think our summer temperatures have finally broke. We're kind of in that summer-fall hybrid, or the summer-fall, what's a good word for it? Yeah, hybrid range. So it's going to be about a month of these moderate temperatures, and then after that, it's going to shoot down, and it's going to be gorgeous. That's funny. Hey, Chipole goes, I picture Waterboy when you say H2O. You got to get some quality H2O. Got to get that in your body. How do you guys like my Waterboy impression? I've seen that movie so many times. No, but that is a really good Adam Sandler movie. I have to admit that. See, we got 6 watchers, and I kind of figured there wouldn't be a lot of people here on a Sunday afternoon. You guys probably have better things to do than to sit here and listen to me ramble on about food ingredients. But I hope a lot of you that don't make it to the live stream at least get a chance to maybe look at it later once it gets re-uploaded. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I want people to realize that these companies are hiding a lot of these really bad ingredients in foods. And you don't necessarily have to take my word for it. You can do searches online. There are a lot of YouTube channels out there. Let me see if I can find the one that I watch. Yeah. Flav City with Bobby Parrish. And I'm going to go ahead and share his channel, because a lot of what I shared with you today is information I learned from his videos. So if you want to watch his channel, click that link. And he can explain it a lot better than I can. He is actually a food expert, and he does a lot of Aldi hauls and Aldi reviews. He actually goes into Aldi and films in the store. So I have to give him kudos for that. The few times I try to do that, they want to kick me out. Yeah, they're really sticklers about filming in there. But you want to make sure that you are eating the right things. And it really isn't that hard. Just, make sure that what you're eating is natural. And a great option, a great idea for you is if you go into a store and you want to buy a product, look at the ingredients label. Everything has nutrition facts. And if you can't pronounce everything that's in those ingredients that are in that item, toss it away, because you don't want it. You want to be able to pronounce everything that is in that particular item. All right, tubers, I'm going to end it here. I think you guys got the idea. Please just be careful out there. Please continue to like and subscribe. Once again, thank you, King of Tech Deals, for that $1 super chat. And as always, have a blessed day, everybody.